Thank you, Mr. Hugh Evans, Chief Executive Officer of the Global Poverty Project, Mr. Chris Watley, Executive Director of the United Nations Association of the USA, Mrs. John Bedstock Stillman, President UNA USA, Southern New York Division, Mr. Peter Year, Vice President of the UN Foundation, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a great pleasure to welcome all of you to the United Nations. I'm delighted to be able to address you today. I thank Chris Watley and Jen Bedstock Stillman for the opportunity to do so. I must begin by remembering our late good friend and colleague, Mr. John Whitehead, who passed away, unfortunately, a few days ago. He was a person whose charisma and energy and dynamism we shall all miss. I was not able to participate in his funeral ceremony, but I sent my wife on my behalf, and senior advisor of the United Nations represented. He achieved so much success in this role, and many other. He was a great inspiration to us all. I'm sure that he will be with us in spirit, even this morning. I'm sure that he will give us all support and blessing in spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, you are the largest network of advocates for the United Nations anywhere in the world. Over half your members are young people, and to all of you who have traveled especially to be here today, welcome to the United Nations. Last week, I surprised some young Brazilian students who were having a guided tour in the United Nations. Of course, they all wanted to take a selfie with me. Meeting them showed me yet again that young people are vital and very dynamic and energetic to the success of the United Nations, and how big an impact they are having on world progress. So I thank the UNA USA for your advocacy efforts in helping to reach out to young people, and for all that you do to promote the support across the United States. In my life as a Secretary General, I meet a lot of people, mostly government leaders. They are all formal, even though we have some private talks. Business leaders and civil society leaders. But when I get most energized and motivated and grateful is that whenever I meet the members of UN association like yourselves, or even though they are not members of the UNA, some people on the street, in the airplane, or airport, or railway stations, are just the common people who recognize me, say, hello, how are you? You are doing a great job, or thank you for what the United Nations is doing. This really gives me a great strength, great strength. Of course, I could not recognize all of them, but they recognized at least that I am the Secretary General of the United Nations. I may not be able to recognize you, each and every one of you, tomorrow, even though we may meet on the street. But please give us and United Nations a strong, friendly support. And that's the one. We do not want any financial support from you, but I think your blessings and your support, solidarity with the United Nations, that is more important than any other things. Of course, United Nations cannot survive. We cannot carry what we have to do without financial contribution from member states. But that's what your country, U.S. government, is doing. U.S. is the largest, the single largest donor country to the United Nations, 20 to 27% of all UN's financial requirements are coming, in fact, from your pockets. You are paying tax, and they are paying, it's not tax, but contributions, very generous contributions. But from you, I need your strong solidarity. That's why I am here. And I thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this year we mark the 70th anniversary of the United Nations. UN was founded in 1945. By coincidence, legally I'm also still 70 years young. Yes. But I'm 1 year older than the United Nations. I was born in 1944. But I celebrated my 70th birthday last year, but still, before my birthday, I'm still 70 years old. So we are, as UN and I are same. Many of the great achievements that have taken place in my life could not have happened without the United Nations acting as a midwife, nurse, maid, and wise parents. And this is particularly for me so, as I'm coming from Korea. You know what had happened to Korea? Tens of thousands of American young men and women came to Korea to rescue us as a part of United Nations collective security. Without US and without United Nations, all of Koreans, or even Republic of Korea, might not have been able to exist. So I don't know where I would have been. I may not be here, definitely, as a Secretary General. So I owe a great deal. I am one of the greatest beneficiaries of the United Nations. And I try to send this message to many people, many young people who are much, much unfortunate, unlucky, and poor at this time even. So I told them that while traveling Syrian refugee camps, I met so many young people who have nothing to eat, nothing to wear. Don't despair. Don't despair. I became Secretary General. The life at my time was much worse than what you are doing. At least we built refugee camp, tents, provide the daily food, water, sanitation, even education. Even though it is a makeshift school, without exception, we establish schools. There are chairs and desks and books, but I didn't. I had to study on the dirt, on the ground. When it rained, no class. That's what happened. Then even with that kind of hardships, you can become Secretary General, you can become President or Senator, Congressman. So I really wanted to give sense of hope. And I'm deeply grateful to all of you, to the American people. This year also marks 70 years since the end of Second World War and the liberation of the Auschwitz-Birkenau, where I myself was there last year. And this year we had a very solemn celebrations marking 70th anniversary of liberation of this Auschwitz-Birkenau. There's still, we have to fight racism, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and other forms of intolerance. I participated yesterday at the White House summit on countering violent extremism and terrorism. President Obama and Secretary Kerry and ministers and vice ministers and experts and senior advisors from at least 60 countries participated. I made the keynote speech. But what is important at this time, we were able to see a solidarity among the peoples. They were coming from all different countries of different faith and different religions. But we were united. And this is not a war against any religion, by any religion, or against any civilization or by any civilization. This is a war against such a brutal criminality, unspeakable, intolerable brutality, beheading, kidnapping, killing, raping. All this must be addressed in the name of humanity. This requires a multidimensional efforts. I told them that, first of all, we have to look at the roots. The reasons why this kind of extremism happens. First, bad governance, failed leadership, corruption, injustice, inequality. This really puts people anger, makes people angry and frustrated, and leaving no choice but to react in a violent way. And second, this is a global challenge. Not a single country, however powerful, however resourceful one country may be, like the United States is the most powerful, most resourceful, and richest countries in the world, by any standard. But United States cannot do it alone. United Nations cannot do it alone. We cannot do it alone. Therefore, we have to have everyone's hands on deck. We have to show solidarity, and we have to mobilize all this. Then is it the only way to address this violent extremism and terrorism by military or forceful means? It may be necessary when people are just killing people, then we have to stop this one by whatever means. But that's not all. That's one part of solution. The more important solution would address how to make people have a sense of belonging. Well, I belong to the United States, I belong to California, I belong to New York. One should have this kind of a belonging. I have my family, community, my school, my country. But there are some people, many people, who are even born there, but because of some different language speaking, different language, or believing in different faith, there is a misperception, discrimination, marginalization, without any jobs opportunity, without political, social opportunities. This comes much more so when everything equal, it becomes much more so for women and girls. Suppose you come from a minority group. When you are a woman, you become more minority among minorities. So we have to address all these issues. Then another one is important to address, military coalition, whatever it may be, intelligence, but human dignity and human rights should go hand in hand in preventing violent extremism. Those were some messages. Those were some messages which I have laid out. And I believe that everybody should feel a responsibility. I think you should feel responsibility as the citizens of most resourceful, richest countries in the world. That you should have a global citizenship. If you live in the United States, it will be very hard for you to understand what is now happening in other parts of the world. I've been traveling all around the world, almost all the countries, all the places where it's not like I'm seeing always presidential palaces. I see more where people are really living on the ground, I meet more people who are not leaders of the communities, just the commoners, common people, sick people, marginalized people, minority groups. That's what I'm doing. Then when we address all these issues all together, I think we will be able to make this world better and more harmonious, more respecting each other. That's why yesterday I have announced my own idea that I'm going to convene some high-level meeting inviting all the faith leaders around the world, because I believe that there is a clear responsibility and role for religious leaders to play, and educationists, teachers, professors, and scholars who can play a role. Education will be very important. Of course, education takes a long time, 10 years, 20 years. But at least in my generation and in your generation, I think we should be able to live in a more harmonious way. That's what I did. President Obama made a very inspiring speech yesterday. You must have read in the newspaper already. That the people who are killing and justify in the name of Muslims or in the name of another religion, that's just simply a lie. Killing people, that's a criminality. It should not be seen as one religion against any religion, one belief against any belief. That we have to really have some caring and sharing a community. That's, I think, a basic and beginning of global citizenship. I'm asking you, particularly young people, to have a global vision. Just forget about that you are American citizen. Living in New York or California, that's wonderful. But you are not seeing what other people, how other people are living. They are our families. This is a very small world. They are our brothers and sisters and fathers and mothers. So we have to live together. That's why on the occasion of 70th anniversary, United Nations is going to have a very visionary and ambitious goals. Our priority is now to make this world sustainable. Environmentally, socially, economically sustainable for everybody, regardless of what you are and where you are. Member states have already announced 17 very ambitious goals with 169 targets to make these goals achieved by 2030. By 2030, our target is that we eradicate this poverty on this earth. By that time, we have a complete gender equality. By that time, there should be no children who are left behind the school, at least the secondary schools. We have still 57 million young people, school-aged people, children, who are out of primary schools. By that time, we'll have to have a secondary school. By that time, we'll have reduced significantly the mothers who are dying while delivering babies, and girls and boys who are dying from preventable diseases. Malaria, polio, and all these, there are so many diseases which are preventable. There are tens of millions of people who are dying from preventable diseases. This we have to. By that time, we have to make this world environmentally sustainable. We have to have global temperature rise below 2 degrees centigrade. By December this year in Paris, we have to have a climate change agreement. That will be historic. If and when we will have this climate change agreement. Those are United Nations and my top priorities. Top priorities. In July this year in Addis Ababa, in Ethiopia, the member states will meet at the highest level to discuss about the means of implementation. We are going to have a climate change agreement. We are going to have a sustainable development goals. Then can they be implemented when we don't have means, ways and means, mechanisms? Without resources, it may be pies in the sky. You know, can you eat these pies in the sky? So those are our visions. Those are our visions. We need support from United Nations Association. We have about 150 or so United Nations associations in the countries. We have a World Federation of United Nations Association. So all these associations of countries are under one federation. This is a good system, but these systems should be run by you, all of you. Your active participation, despite the minus 16 degrees today. I'm feeling a lot of energy and heat today, warmth. And this is exactly what I need. And with this, United Nations can deliver what we have to deliver to many people around the world. And I really thank you for your support. And I hope you will have good discussions. And United Nations is ready, always near you, behind you, and we will be standing in front of you. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best. Thank you.